Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is, September the 12th today. Where is the year going? Now, we've got a busy day today, and we've got a busy day. We've got this stream now at 11 o'clock and tonight at 7 p.m. So 8 hours from now, we have our second stream. It's the quiz night that we're going to be running. Now, this quiz night, we can't mention names on here because we're streaming on Binance, but it's one of our quiz nights we've never done before, and we're going to give away more tokens. We're going to give away more crypto. What more could you be waiting for? Now, we are going to have one of those I told you so shows today. We're going to look at the Fed, what was announced, why it's bullish for crypto. We're going to look at a $360,000 target for Bitcoin. We're going to look at Sol Treasuries. We're going to look at the XRP dip that isn't a dip anymore but was a dip. We're going to look at Chainlink, their partnership with UBS and DigiFT, I think they're called. We're going to be looking at the end of the dollar reserve in Web3 and crypto. We've talked about that before. We're going to talk about that again from a different angle. And we are going to be talking about, I was going to call it Careless Whisper, but it didn't fit on the screen. So we're going to have to call it Careless. This is about what some Hong Kong workers got up to and got caught doing. All of that. It's a Friday, and we are going to have one chart today as well. We're going to look at the Bitcoin chart. So if you are watching on Binance, say hello in chat. If you're watching on YouTube, say hello in chat. There is a few people watching. Alpha is here. Hidden is here. Mags is here. And I can't open the Binance one. It's not working for me at the minute. So what we will do is we will go straight in and have a look at the prices, because we've had some sexy price action in the last 24 hours since we got the news of the CPI, which we're going to cover in a minute. But we've got some sexy news, so we're going to go and have a look at some prices. I'm going to bring this up for you now. And again, the message of the day is at the bottom of your screen. Pack your bags. We said exactly the same thing last year. Exactly the same thing last year. October, the middle of October, is traditionally when we go to the upside. Now, we are September the 12th. You've probably got 3 to 4 weeks left to pack your bags before we start moving up. Now, you might think some of the prices right now are already high. Maybe you think that Ethereum is already too high, Bitcoin is already too high, and I would tend to agree with you. I'd tend to agree with you. If we're looking at Bitcoin, for example, 115,000, if we're only going to go to 150,000, 140,000, it's only a 30% move. I would argue that now would be the time to look at some of the coins outside of the top 10. That's what I would say. Now, I haven't said that before, but if we have the November top, is Bitcoin going to go to $300,000? I don't think so. Is it going to go to $230,000? I don't think so. So we're not going to get a 100% return in that time. And again, we have to play what's in front of us. I think we're at a really good price for a lot of these coins already. XRP, $5 to $7. Again, that's not a massive move up. Solana is up to $237, $240. It's going to be at $250 before we know it. Is that going to move up? Where's that going to go? I've said $600 to $1,000 depending on the ETF. Okay, so that's only maybe a 2x from here. Got to have a think about those things. And also, if you've already got those bags packed, that's good. I think you're in a good position. Now, I did make 2 purchases yesterday. And I've always tried to be open and honest on here and tell you what we buy. And one of the coins that I've bought is World Liberty Financial. I've been waiting for it to break down again. It was at 19.5 cents. I did say I wanted to buy it at 10 or 11 cents. It isn't breaking down any further, in my opinion, unless we have a big market correction. So I started to dollar cost average in to WLFI token last night. And the second one I bought, which again, I have vilified this coin constantly on this channel, and it came down, and it won't break that $1 billion mark. And the amount of money that this coin is seeing in buy pressure, I think it's going to push it to the upside, and that is Pump. Now, I know it's trash, I know, but I have to play the field, and I'm telling you now because I've waited and waited and waited for it to come down, and it hasn't. So I've bought a smaller bag of Pump. So I now have a World Liberty Finance position and a Pump position, and they're not going to be massive positions. They're not even going to be 1% of the portfolio. I don't even know if they're going to be a four-figure sum, but I wanted to have a little toe in the water. I haven't really bought anything for a long time. I'm trying to think of the last thing we bought on here. I mean, we've bought many coins over. We've bought Ondo. We bought that last year. We've bought Near Protocol. We bought that last year. We've dabbled a little bit in AI tokens. We haven't really bought an awful lot. And that's really what our strategy is anyway. So I just wanted to make that very clear that we have opened some positions. Now, gainers of the day. Pudgy, Pengu is up. Ondo is back over $1. We seem to have waited a year for this to happen. We're at $1.09. I think that coin is going an awful lot higher. Okay? I never lost my conviction in Ondo the same way that a lot of these coins that are appearing here right now, I haven't lost my conviction in them either. But I don't hold any of them. Aerodrome is at 125. Been saying all along anything under $1 for Aerodrome was a bargain. Solana is in the top gainers of the last 24 hours. We're going to get the ETF for XRP and Solana. That's why both of them are pumping, by the way. Pump is up again. Again, it's now at 2 billion. I think it's going to go even higher. But I don't like it. But I have to put my toe in. Tezos is up. Radium is up again. This was over $5 not that long ago. So this, and it's under $1 billion. I don't hold any Ray. And I don't hold a lot of coins that I like, as I've just said, but it's under $1 billion. If you do a comparison across the different coins on Solana, Radium should not be under $1 billion. It should be $5 to $10. It isn't. Maybe that's worth having a look at. Jupiter, again, 1.7 billion. Radium powers Jupiter. Jupiter is an aggregator. Radium is in the background, as is Orca, as is a few others. 55 cents for Jupiter, that should be $1.50. Pith is up there, but still, it's not even 20 cents. That's going to go. There are so many good coins still undervalued, in my opinion. Now, the one thing to understand about a bull market and a blow-off top is we're going to go from undervalued to overvalued very, very quickly. And what I mean by that is that I'm going to see coins which, for example, Chainlink. Chainlink's $25. Let's say Chainlink goes to $110. I am going to say that's overvalued, and I am going to take profits. Maybe Solana goes to $800, $600. I'm going to think that's the time to take profits. So you can look at a project and look at the moving parts and look at a comparison between them and other projects. Is Ondo overvalued compared to Syrup? Absolutely. Ondo is undervalued, but Syrup and Maple Finance are criminally undervalued, in my opinion. So you can look at different coins and you can see them different ways. There aren't many losers. It's one of those days. It's a nice green day for us. And another important thing, market cap is back over 4 trillion. That's something to keep an eye on. I said a long time ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, market cap will hit 6 to 10 trillion in this cycle. We're 50% away from hitting that target. We've got a lot of different coins at different stages of their cycle. We've just seen BNB break $908. That's an all-time high. My target for BNB is $1,000 to $1,500. Again, we're 50%, 60% away from hitting the target I've got for BNB. So we're nearly there. In my opinion, we're nearly there. But some coins are going to move faster and more violently than others. BNB is never going to move violently. It's always going to move slowly up and slowly down. BNB has reached an all-time high. Thank you for the continued support. BNB all-time high is $908. This is from this morning, yeah. No, this is from a few days ago. But BNB has just retaken its all-time high today of $908. Again, we can see the direction, but we should also see where the top is of that direction. What is the destination? And for me, each coin has a different destination, and I think some of them are going to run an awful lot harder and higher than others. I'm also trying to get the chat to work on Binance, and it is not working. JP Morgan says the S&P 500 committee's decision to block MicroStrategy's inclusion is a major setback. It is absolutely not a major setback at all. There is no major setback. I think this is absolute hot air. At some point, we are going to see MicroStrategy in the top S&P 500. Just keep an eye on that. Right, I'm just going to log in and see if I can see Binance chat, because I don't think... See, it's there and it's working, but do we actually have the stream up? That's the thing. See, I can't see the stream. I can't see the stream on Binance. So I don't know if we're live or not live. Anyway, let's move very quickly on. Cointelegraph. Maybe it's my connection. Maybe I'm the one having problems right now. Now, this is the last one. I don't remember what this one is. Oh, yes. Okay. So, I made a video in January with my predictions for 2025. And I think there was about 5 predictions in that video, and 4 of them have already come true. The one prediction which hasn't come true so far is this one. Sam Bankman-Fried's appeal is scheduled for November the 4th, 2 years after he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Now, I believe, and again, I am not a betting man, I believe he is going to be set free. Now, that doesn't mean he's innocent, and it doesn't mean that he should be, or he shouldn't be serving time. But I believe that he is guilty, but I also believe that he is going to be let out. I also believe that CZ is going to be pardoned, which means that his criminal record will be expunged in America. So this is the last of my predictions. And if the appeal goes ahead and he is let out, then everything I said at the start of this year has come to pass. I'm not going to say I told you so, but that's the first of my told you so's for the day. And now we're going to move in to looking at the real news. Chat is really quiet today across absolutely every metric. I am trying to keep an eye on everything, and nobody's talking anywhere. Maybe everybody's still on holiday. Who knows? Right then. The CPI data has hit 2.9% in August, sealing a 25% basis point Fed rate cut for next week. Now, lots of people have been talking about 0.5%. We know Chairman Powell isn't going to do that. We know Powell is going to cut rates by 0.25%. Let's just put that out there. We're going to see a lot of crap in the press for the next 5 days saying he's going to cut by 0.5%, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. Listen, it's going to be 0.25. It's what the market expects. The CPI data came in as expected, and we're going to look at the Bitcoin chart in a minute to show you why that was important. But we're going to cut rates. CPI did rise, but everybody expected it to rise. Shelter, food and gas costs increased, pushing prices higher across the board. Airfares jumped 6%. Medical care and natural gas declined. Now, we don't need to read too much about this. This isn't important. What is important is the fact that we're going to start to see rate cuts, and that is going to start next week. And that is what we have been waiting all year for. And I have been saying, like a stuck record, we should have been cutting from June. Should have had a rate cut in June. But Powell bottled it. The economists didn't understand the markets. The economists didn't understand how Trump works. And that's on them, not on Trump. Now, the reason for that is Trump was never going to introduce tariffs across the board for everybody and then just nail everybody to a cross for the rest of the year. And everybody told you that this was going to ruin the world economy. And there was very few people who told you it wasn't going to ruin the world economy. And actually, it was the right thing to do. And do you know who one of those people was? Me. I told you because I've read his book. Shock and awe tactics. Position of power. Negotiate. Shock and awe tactics. Position of power. Negotiate. If I understand that, how does every other economist around the world not understand it? And I tell you why, because it's clickbait. They're idiots. All of them are idiots. And if they can lie to you about this, and maybe not, maybe lie is a strong word. If they can be wrong about this, what else are they wrong about? He was right to do what he did with China, with Europe, with India, with Japan, with the UK. He was right. Everybody expected inflation in America to go through the roof. Oh, an iPhone is going to cost you $65,000. No, it hasn't, because he negotiated. Petrol's going to be $65 a gallon, but it hasn't. You're being fed a pack of lies by people who should know better. And I was simply giving you a unfiltered opinion. That's all it was. I am not a genius or an economist. I'm telling you how it was, while everybody else was flying around trying to get people to buy their newspapers. So make sure when you listen that you don't believe as gospel everything you hear. Good morning. I hope you are well. Now then, Bitcoin's super cycle ignition hints at $360,000. Nonsense, but we'll go through it anyway. I said this to Villain Bear in chat the other day when he's like, all you ever do is show these price targets. I do, because I want you to understand that what you're being told is not true. And I've been saying this for 3 years now. 2.5 years, actually. Been saying this for 2.5 years. You're being fed more and more lies. And these people are trying to sell newspapers. And their job has gone from reporting facts and giving you a fair and balanced opinion to feeding you lies to sell their newspapers or sell their clicks. So their main objective is no longer you. You are the product. They are simply farming you. $360,000. Bitcoin's inverse head and shoulders pattern signaled the continuation of the uptrend towards $360,000 driven by institutional demand via spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, there is a universe where we can hit $360,000 this cycle. And that all happens if we don't end the cycle in November. And if we don't end the cycle and the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve comes in and interest rates get cut by 2%, and all of these things happen, then yes, maybe we can get there. But in all seriousness, 150, 170, 180, that's the target I was looking for. My end of cycle price, by the way, just for the record, was about $112,500. And again, that was set a few years ago. And we've gone past that simply because the market changed. We had institutional adoption and we've got ETFs. So my price has been revised up to $150,000 because I've said that the ETFs have brought roughly 50% more price action. So that takes us to 150. Maybe there's 200 on the cards. But I'm very wary of people that give you that kind of target. A classic Bitcoin price chart pattern puts $170,000 to $360,000 in play this cycle. So that's a range of $190,000. Wow. Spot Bitcoin ETFs post the biggest inflows in 2 months as institutional demand rebounds. Bitcoin's at 115,000. We're all very happy about that, but it could launch us to 360,000. Inverse head and shoulders. The weekly chart shows 2 head and shoulders patterns as shown in the figure below. The first is a smaller one since November 24 and resolved in July when the price broke above 112. That was my target. The recent rebound from this level suggests higher. The measured target is at 170,000. I absolutely agree with that. I think 170,000 is a great price for Bitcoin. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. But look at where we are today when you're thinking about buying your crypto. And look at where you think we're going to go. If you're holding Bitcoin for the next 20 years, keep buying it. Every week, every month, don't stop. If you are buying your crypto to sell this cycle and you want to get out of this cycle with as much money as possible, then you need to now be looking at alts, in my opinion. Because if 170,000 is the top, and that is 60% up from where we are now for Bitcoin, Ethereum could go to $7,000. Let's make it easier to work out. Let's say it goes to $9,000. That's a 100% move. Let's say that Solana breaks $500. That's a 120% move. So your return is suddenly no longer in Bitcoin if the end of the cycle is your cutoff. That's something you have to bear in mind. If you are not selling this cycle, continue to buy the alts that you have conviction in, which is mainly Bitcoin. That's as clear cut as I can put it. If the cycle is going to finish for you this year or early next year, then Bitcoin is no longer the choice for your portfolio, in my opinion. If you are holding for 5+ years, then Bitcoin dollar cost averaging in is the way you're going to make the most money, and it's been proven. Okay? That's it. Cut and dry, as black and white as I can make it on that chart. Now, I want to show you something. I did a second stream on, what day was it? Was it Wednesday? I think I did a stream on Binance Square on Wednesday, and it was just on Binance Square. It wasn't on YouTube, and I basically talked about a few alts. I talked about Hype, I talked about Solana, I think, I talked about Bitcoin, and the one thing I want to show you is this. Let's just double check. This is my chart that I drew. There we go. Right. So this is what I went through on Wednesday. And if you don't believe me, go and check my stream on Wednesday on Binance Square. And I gave you 2 scenarios for the CPI data yesterday. Because I am not a magician and I cannot see the future, I can only give you my targets based on the outcome of the information that we get. So 24 hours before the CPI data came out, I drew this chart and I showed you the bottoms and the top. And I said, in a really, really, really negative CPI release, we were going to go to 107,400. In a really, really decent expected CPI set of data, we were going to come up to this circle here and this line here. Now, my line was 116,000. And we went to 116,300 and it was a wick, of which we've bounced off it. Okay? Now, I am not a seer of the future. I only go off all of these things that I have drawn here before. And we came to where we were supposed to come to based on the data that came out yesterday. I'm happy. Now, this was specifically for that CPI release. Next week, we have the Fed rate cut decision, and this will become invalid. We're either going to go much higher or we're going to come back into the range. Okay, that's where we are. But I wanted to show you this because you shouldn't really ever trade CPI, PPI. You shouldn't really trade the Fed rate cut day, because what will happen, and what I said on Wednesday was, we could do this. And by Friday, we could be back at the same price we were at on Wednesday. So that's a problem. So if you go long and the price dumps, they liquidate you. And then they go up to liquidate all the shorts. They just flush everybody out of the market. So when I made these two predictions, it was based on previous price action. And we followed previous price action. And that was it. And we're coming to the end of this kind of grey-white box now that I drew. We're going to come out of that and maybe we come back to the downside. Now, the other chart I want to show you is this. And this is my standard chart, which I'm hoping is still going to be there. Perfect. Now, again, pay close attention to my beautiful drawing, my beautiful Bob Ross. We come down, we come up, and then we follow this line. And we have done, since I drew this, and to be fair, I didn't draw it all the way back here. That's pretty much the area where I drew this box. And we're following it. Now, maybe, and I said this at the time, maybe we do that before going up. Maybe we don't go all the way to the top of the range. But the range, hang on a second. I've gone off the chart that I didn't want to go off. But the range has a top, which is $118,500. And that's what we have to break, in my opinion, and hold. So over here, as we've said on Monday, we didn't hold it. So what we have to do is that, or that. We have to bounce off the previous resistance to create support to go higher. That's all we have to do. But we're still in the range. Don't get excited at $115,000. Don't get depressed at $107,000. Right? Let's just play it as it is. We can't change anything. We can just ride the wave. We're not in charge of the sea. We just ride the sea. That's all we can do. Right, let's move on. How long do we have left? 11:28. Can I check Sol? I will check Sol, yep, in a second. A0 recovery, yep. Good morning, Tariq. I hope you are well. Now, this is what we're going to talk about with Sol. And we can have a look at the chart in a second. Now, Sol, let's get rid of these things. Sol and XRP are in a different moment than a lot of other projects in the market. And the reason is that the ETFs are about to go live in the next few weeks. And they're the next two ETFs. So we've got Bitcoin and we know we've got Ethereum. We've got those two. And what I have been saying all along is prior to those ETFs going live, we are going to see the price go up of XRP and Ethereum. Sorry, and Solana. Because the likes of BlackRock and Cathie Wood's ARK Invest, all of those people, they're going to have to get themselves a bag of Sol before they can play the game. So there's going to be price action to the upside before it goes live. Now, That's been the narrative now for the last 18 months, but this is the new narrative, and that is treasuries. And I've said all along, Ton treasuries, crap. SUI treasuries, crap. Say, crap. They're all crap. If you're going to have a treasury, in my opinion, it should be Bitcoin or Ethereum. I will add Solana to that list once Solana starts to break further to the upside. I don't think having $100 billion market cap, in my opinion, is or warrants having it as a treasury reserve. Having Bitcoin is a, $2.5 trillion asset. Yes, it's a strategic reserve, treasury reserve. Ethereum is above 500 billion? Yes. But then you start to get to smaller and smaller assets. Even BNB I would classify and say, you know what? It's a slow-moving asset. It's got really good tokenomics. There's a big burn going on every quarter. Yes, BNB. But Solana, I think, has to be a little bit higher. Now, what is interesting here, this company has raised $1.65 billion for its Solana treasury. The surge to 227 coincided with Forward Industries' raise of $1.65 billion for treasury finance amid changes to its board members. The SOL price has climbed. The move is a signal of growing institutional confidence in the Solana ecosystem. So the value of SOL extended its rally on Wednesday. It's up 227. What's it at today? 230 something. The token has now gained 7.7% in a week. It was always going to happen. According to the official statement, the financing round was led by Galaxy Digital, Jump Crypto, and Multicoin Capital. The company confirmed that proceeds will be directed towards purchasing Solana's native token SOL. It would also cover working capital needs and digital asset-related expenses. Now, we're going to go and bring up the Solana chart while I talk a little bit about this. Now, I'm going to reiterate something again. So let me go on full screen while I bring the chart up. All right, I'm just going to bring up the Solana chart in the background. Now, I want to make something very clear, and I've said it a few times, and I want you all to understand what is going to happen. MicroStrategy is the Bitcoin treasury. Tom Lee's company is the Ethereum treasury. So what companies are doing is they are looking for a blockchain to become the dominant alpha male. Now, that's why we have seen the likes of SUI. That's why we are going to see the likes of Solana. That's why we're going to see the likes of nation states buying BNB. Because they're not super interested in my opinion, they're not super interested in getting the safest asset. They want to be the go-to company for you. So if you are a company looking to buy stocks and shares for your own treasury, then you're going to add MicroStrategy. You're going to add Saylor. You're going to add Lee. So that's your Bitcoin and Ethereum tied up. You're also going to want Solana and BNB, probably XRP, probably Cardano. We've seen people talking about an XRP treasury. So what these companies are doing is that they're looking at it and they're going, you know what? We don't really care. We're going to become the dominant force of that blockchain. We're going to buy 4%, 5% of the total supply of that blockchain. And that's what we're going to do. Now, when they buy such a large amount, it's going to absolutely rip the price. Now, we are probably above the majority of the tops. Now, let me move. You see all of these lines we had down here? Look at that. Beautiful little reaction down there. Now, we're going to move a few of these lines because we don't need them anymore, ladies and gentlemen. We are not going to need this line until we get to the bear market. So let me go back to about that point there. Now, let me move this up again. Now, what I'm doing here, just so we all know, and again, I'm not an expert. I look at previous price action. That's it. You can all do the same. And what you want to do is you want to find areas where Solana has had previous resistance or support. So that one down here, I don't want to draw too many lines on this chart because I just don't want to cover it in arrows. Now, these that I'm drawing here, these are the previous points in which Solana has found difficulty breaking through. And somebody in chat, let me just get the name of the person in chat. Good morning to you. So it's Taufik. Okay, so Taufik is looking for this. Right, I've drawn it now. We've brought it up on the screen. Bullish Bull, good morning. So these are the different price targets above us for Solana. Right, forget this. Let's go back over here a second. Forget this. Forget this. Right. Let's look at these three lines. Now, these lines are 221. We're way above that now. The next level of resistance is $240. $240.77. And the level above that is $258. So for me, if we are going to get rejected, and I know somebody has a short in place right now, if we're going to get rejected, then this could very well be the line that we get rejected at. Okay? Because nothing goes up forever. Now, what I would say, a scenario would be, I mean, how close have we come to that line? I think we've pretty much tapped it within $1. So what I would expect to see is this move here down to $222. That's what I would expect before maybe later on moving up. Okay? So if you look previously, we wick up, we come down, we go. We wick up, we come down, we go. Same again, down and up. So if you follow the pattern, if there's any movement now, I would say it's back to $222 and then up. And if we don't do that and we do break through that line, then the next level above us, for me, would be $259. But you can clearly see down here that we're starting to see a move down on the flows in. So I think we might cool off at that point and come back down to $222. I don't know if that fits in with what you've been looking at, but that is certainly what I would be looking at. And again, put it this way. If you gave me an option right now of longing or shorting Solana at that price, I would short it. But the huge caveat to all of this is, if it is announced today that the Solana and XRP ETFs are going to go live, then all hell is going to break loose. We could absolutely dump or we could absolutely pump. And again, I can't predict the future. I know they're coming. I know we're getting the ETFs. It's not when, but if. But for right now, if you want some hopium, it's $222. That's what I will say on Solana. Now then, we are going to have a look at some of these things. Somebody's asked for Sui and Hype. You know what? I can actually show you Hype. You know what? We'll look at the Hype very, very quickly. I covered Hype on Wednesday. Is this the one I used? I don't think this is the one I used. Which chart did I use for Hype? Because I don't know where the chart was that I used for Hype. It could be any of them. I've got the TA on one of these. But basically, I've got a... Is it this one? Was it this one? There we go. Right. So, this is very quickly, the TA I did on Hype. And so far, so good. I said it would come down to $44. That was my target for Hype. Now, again, this is all open to what's going to happen over the next 6 days. If we get a 0.5% rate cut, for example, next week, this is going to move outside of my range. But look at the range that Hype has been in. So this range has gone back to May. And we've kind of followed a pretty nice pattern. But I do think we're due a retracement. And I said on Wednesday, $44 is where I would buy Hype. Okay? That's all I'm going to say on Hype. Now, I'm going to move on to talk about XRP. And the Wednesday stream, by the way, the reason I only did it on Binance Square and not put it up on YouTube was just time. The time to actually get live. I could press go live on Binance Square. With YouTube, I've got to set it up and I've got to do an awful lot more things. So I just went live very quickly. The thing is, Taufik, with something like Solana, it's quite a big asset. It's quite a big market cap. I'd say there's a 70% chance we come back down to $222. I think there's a 30% chance we go back up. But it looks to me as if the buying volume is falling off. And if it's falling off, then it's falling off. I really, really, really want to get a Hype position. But I don't have a Hype position because I didn't believe it would go much higher than where it is. If you'd offered me Hype at $20, I would have taken it. By the time I started seeing it on my radar, it was $35. And we're at $54 now. So there isn't much of a move in it for me. So I wouldn't go near Hype. But when they get this stable coin, and when that stable coin starts to suck up the hype off the market, I'm very bullish on it. But this is also why I'm very, very bullish on World Liberty Finance. Because it's all well and good you sitting there and saying, oh yeah, but it's dumped. Yeah, but ignore the tokenomics and everything to do with World Liberty Financial. Their stablecoin, USD1, is going to take the profits from the 4.5% and 5% that they get from the US debt, and they're going to use that to buy WLFI tokens forever and a day. Now, it's only got a $4.5 billion market cap, WLFI. But if we're buying, or we're seeing them buy 500 million, $1 billion a year of that token, I am telling you now, that token is going to skyrocket. And I don't care about tokenomics because they're simply going to drain all of the supply. So the price will go up. And Jupiter is doing the same thing. And Hype is doing the same thing. And I think it's a really clever move. XRP dips as CPI rises to highest level since January. This is slightly out of date because I think the news about the ETF is coming out. And I think that's going to pump XRP up. Listen, we're not going to go to $10 on XRP. We might go to $3.50, $3.30, something like that. But I also think it could be a sell the news event with XRP and Solana, because Grayscale will convert their XRP and their Solana trusts. They will convert them into the ETFs. And guess what's happened the last 2 times that's happened? They have dumped the market. So it's all about timing. In the long term, it doesn't matter. In the short term, it's going to be massive sell pressure on Solana and XRP. The US Consumer Price Index came in at 2.9, which we know. We don't need to read about this. XRP immediately dipped to 298, down 1% in an hour. Bitcoin and Ethereum similarly dipped. It fell to 113.5. XRP to hit $5, according to this expert. Now, Crypto BitLord, he's an expert. He has got it to hit $5 by December 2025. It's make or break price. If it dips any further, it could go down to $2. But if it maintains the momentum, it could rise as high as $5 by the end of the year. Now, my price target for XRP is $5 to $7. I made a video in July 2024 with $5 to $7. I made a video about Cardano at the same time, and I think I had $3 to $5 for Cardano, I think. But they're around those prices. Now, I think a $5 XRP is a very, very sensible price target for XRP. Okay? Now, I'm not going to look at the chart for XRP. I just want to show you something. And that's the market cap, because nobody really ever looks at the market cap. And I think it's massively important. If XRP is at 181 billion, and we're talking about it going to $5, that's a 66% increase. So that puts XRP at a $300 billion market cap. Okay, that is substantial. Look at Bitcoin at $115,000. If that goes to $250,000, that puts it at a $4.6 trillion market cap. That's a big ask. Ethereum to go to $7,000, for example, that would be giving it, let's say $750 billion. So you've got to kind of look at these prices and say, how high are we really going to realistically go? You'll see people say, well, XRP is going to go to $100 or $50, whatever it might be. So if you multiply this by 15, you get $2.7 trillion for the market cap. Do we see XRP going to $2.7 trillion? No, we don't. So we have to have some realism. And that's what I use when I look down here and look at Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid at $100 goes to a $32 billion market cap. I think that's realistic. But if somebody said to you, well, it's going to go to $560, that would give it an $187 billion market cap. And I know everything is a moving train, and I know all of these other assets would go up in value. But for Hyperliquid to 10x to 180 billion, at today's prices, that would give it the same cap as XRP. I don't think that's realistic. So I try and use a combination of price action and market cap. And I know market cap is fallible. I know previous price action is fallible. We have price discovery. These things can have blow-off tops. I know all of those things. But you have to have some grounding when you're making your decisions. And I can back up the majority of what I say most of the time by showing you where we are. Like Solana and BNB. Here's a good comparison. These two projects have been flipping each other for the last year. And look at them now, $240, and BNB is at an all-time high of $908. And their market caps are still within touching distance of each other. So they've grown pretty much at the same time. And you wouldn't expect that. You'd expect Solana to outpace BNB because you're in your head. You see Solana being that much more dynamic than BNB. But BNB is a silent, dark horse. It's the rogue of crypto. So when you say XRP going to $5, I see that happening. But I don't see it going to $20 or $30 because I don't see it going over $1 trillion. I just don't see it. And for XRP to go to that number, Ethereum would have to go immeasurably higher. Bitcoin would have to go immeasurably higher. And I don't see that happening. So for me, you might do a 2x from here on XRP, and that is pretty much it. But again, we've been holding XRP since it was, what, 30, 35 cents? We've come a long way with XRP. It's nearly done a 10x. How much more do you want? Now then, Chainlink is another one of my conviction plays, which I wholeheartedly believe in. Don't sell BNB, not financial advice. I think Hype at $38 is a good price. Sol and XRP on the ETF. So we sell Sol, I think you've meant to put. So we sell Sol and XRP on the ETF, then buy again for the bull run. Now, I can only go off what's happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it's about timing, Tariq. The issue is that if we get the ETFs today, tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, Saturday, Monday or Tuesday, then I think we're going to see a dip. And then, yes, we could buy it for the bull run. But if we don't get those ETFs until the middle of October, the end of October, you don't have a lot of time to sell and buy. So it's about timing. I've been saying this all year. If we got the XRP and Solana ETFs back in March or May, then we wouldn't be having this conversation now, because Solana would be over $300. XRP would more likely be about $4, $5. That's the problem. We don't know when they're going to launch. And the day they launch, it might rip. And then maybe you can sell. And then maybe you buy back in. And that's only based on what's happened in the past. And that's the issue. It's basing what we see coming on the past. Bitcoin dumped. Ethereum dumped. Grayscale was mostly responsible for that dump, but not wholly, mostly. So I see maybe we run up to $4, $3.50 for XRP. Maybe we run up to $300 for Solana after it's come back down for Taufik, by the way. And then maybe they come back down to $2.20, and maybe XRP comes back down to $3, $2.80. And then the bull run takes us to $560 and $600. Maybe that's the play. I don't know. I'm just going off previous action. Now, we are not going to get chance to look at everything else because we're going to run out of time, which is fine. I kind of do articles in levels of importance. So we get through all the most important things first. Now, DigiFT, Chainlink and UBS are teaming up to automate the management of tokenized funds in Hong Kong. Now, we're going to read the summary, and I want to talk to you about Chainlink. DigiFT will collect investor orders through regulated smart contracts and validate the infrastructure. UBS will provide the tokenized funds and smart contracts that hold and manage the assets. Chainlink will execute fund operations such as issuance, redemption, and lifecycle management across blockchains using its DTA framework. Now, this digital transfer agent framework, okay, what Chainlink does, I'm going to go back to the chart for a second, not the chart, we're going to go back to the price for a second. The reason, I think Warren Buffett said this. You buy the companies that are monopolies. That's what I think Warren Buffett said. If it wasn't Warren Buffett, it was Charlie Munger. It was one of the two. You buy the monopoly in the industry. Now, my argument would be, if we're going to look at crypto and use this like for like, Bitcoin is the monopoly for wealth generation. Ethereum has the monopoly for DeFi and stablecoins. Solana probably has the monopoly on retail. XRP possibly has the monopoly on the banking infrastructure. Chainlink has the monopoly on oracles, CCIP, cross-blockchain transfers, on and off ramping. So Chainlink has the monopoly. It's the biggest oracle. If we go over here, and I know I like Pyth, and I do like Pyth, but Pyth's time isn't now for being the size of Chainlink. Pyth is 4 or 5 years behind. Now, please let Chainlink be the top of this chart, because otherwise I've brought you up the wrong one. Right, here we go. So these are, and for those of you that don't know this about CoinMarketCap, if you type a category in, it will show you the crypto based on that category. Now, this is the top oracles by market cap. Now, Chainlink is more than an oracle, but we can't pull a chart out of thin air that compares it to everything. So we have to pick something, and let's pick Oracle. Now, Chainlink, the market cap of all of the oracles is 22 billion. Chainlink's market cap is 16.6 billion. Now, what other cryptocurrency has such a large percentage of the total overall market cap? Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is still over half of all of crypto. Chainlink is 3/4 of all of the Oracle market cap. Now, the important thing to realize here, and this is again a change that you need to understand. I am very excited when companies use fees to buy back their token. Why? Because for them to buy back their own token, they have to make money and they have to make profit. Look at the projects: Jupiter, World Liberty Financial, Syrup, Chainlink. Chainlink has created its own treasury using its own tokens, and it is buying back Chainlink tokens on a regular basis. Now, over time, and it's going to go past October and November, over time, the buyback on Chainlink is going to build up a massive, massive treasury for Chainlink. But it also means that the circulating supply is going to be drained. So we're going to see it go much higher. Now, I've had a price target of $80 to $100 for Chainlink forever and a day. And that's based on market cap. Chainlink's army, the Chainlink army or the Link army, whatever they call themselves, they are now talking about a $100 to $110 price target for Chainlink. That sits well with me because it's realistic. And what would that put Chainlink at? That would put Chainlink at roughly $55 billion. Now, do you think $55 billion for the biggest oracle, the biggest on and off ramp, the biggest cross-chain liquidity transfer protocol, do you think 55 billion is unrealistic? Because that only puts it in 8th position, behind BNB, behind Solana, behind XRP. I don't think that's wholly unrealistic at all. We bought our Chainlink at $6. I think we bought Chainlink at $6. So we've only 4x'd on our Chainlink. If it goes to $80, then what have we done? 14x'd. Am I happy with that? Of course I am. If you're looking at coins to pick up and hold for the long run, again, we said at the start, coins to hold, Bitcoin number one. If you're looking for a project to hold for the next 5 years, Chainlink has to be on your list. And it's boring, by the way. It's cross blockchain transfers. It's on and off ramps. They work with Visa and MasterCard. They work with the banking system. They work with XRP. It's the oil that keeps the cogs of crypto moving. But without oil, everything grinds to a halt. Before Chainlink, wormholes were being hacked left, right and centre. We hardly ever hear of that because of CCIP. They are fundamental. They are part of the DNA of blockchain, and you should hold Chainlink. And for the record, I do hold a very small supply of Chainlink. I don't know how much I've got, but it's not massive. My number one crypto by far is Bitcoin. I think probably 60-50% of my net worth is in Bitcoin. So everything after that is kind of adding to my 40%, 45% of my portfolio. And Bitcoin for me is always going to be my number one, and I'm never going to sell my Bitcoin. Ethereum, I will sell, probably. Regulated multi-currency stablecoins will end the dollar's crypto monopoly. This is absolutely rubbish information from Jamie. Never, ever, ever, ever going to happen. The Americans are not going to allow this to happen. Dollar stablecoins control crypto financial rails, but regulated euro, yen, and yuan alternatives are emerging to challenge the USD's on-chain monopoly. Stablecoin started as a workaround for crypto traders, pegging tokens to the dollar. The danger lies here. Without the growth of credible, well-regulated alternatives in euro, yen, and offshore yuan, the dollar's dominance will be locked into the crypto's foundation for years. This is exactly what the Trump administration are trying to do. They are $32 trillion in debt. The total market cap of crypto right now is $4 trillion. Let's say that crypto grows to $40 trillion. And let's say, for argument's sake, that stablecoins grow to be 25% of the market. That's $10 trillion worth of stablecoins. But that $10 trillion worth of stablecoins is backed by $10 trillion worth of American debt, which is never going to be called upon. Okay? At some point in the future, crypto is probably going to be 100 times larger than it is now. That is $400 trillion, for argument's sake. If stablecoins keep pace, that becomes $100 trillion worth of American debt. They are only $32 trillion in debt. The American government are buying Bitcoin. So they're selling you their debt, and they are buying the most pristine asset in the world. Think about that. I don't have enough time to go through it right now, but that's the most important takeaway for me. The American government are buying Bitcoin. The American government are trying to pump crypto full of debt. That will devalue the dollar, yes, but it will also absolutely rip the price of Bitcoin. Putin and his team sat at a conference this week, beginning of this week I think it was, and said that America is trying to basically cover their debt with crypto and stable coins. And that's what you've heard. Now, America doesn't care if the yuan gets $1 trillion. Doesn't care if the euro gets $200 billion. It doesn't care. If it gets $20, $30 trillion worth of debt into crypto, it's problem over. Okay? And that's, I think, where I'm going to leave it today, because it's 12:01. So, tonight, we have another stream. We are going to be streaming in 7 hours' time, and it is a quiz. And that quiz is going to be a giveaway. We're going to be giving away tokens live on the show, and we're going to try and mix it up a little bit. We're going to give away the prizes for first, second, and third, yes, but we're going to give away prizes throughout the show. And because of that, you probably need to have your wallet handy. That's all I'm going to say. So, excuse me. I will see you all tonight at 7 o'clock. Take care, everybody. See you in 7 hours. Don't be late.